Welcome to Brand Lover, honest, real and lively conversations for flourishing entrepreneurs and budding business owners on a mission to cultivate a heartfelt brand that connects with their purpose-driven mission. My hope is that you walk away feeling inspired and refreshed with a weekly takeaway in your back pocket that you can apply to your life or business. So welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited about this week's guest because she's a very good friend of mine and I consider that an absolute privilege. We met at a mastermind about, I guess almost 2 years ago. And for me, it was love at first sight. I don't know if that was reciprocated or not. I don't really care, but she's just the most warm, kind-hearted, generous, down-to-earth soul that, I really do consider it a privilege to call her my friend and have her part of my life. Come on down, Emily Beaton. She is a goals coach and a whole bunch of other amazing things, but I'm going to let her tell you about that. So Em, welcome.
Thank you. And I've got to say, the feeling is totally mutual. I feel so lucky to have you in my life. You keep me nice and grounded. And we're so lucky.
Thank you.
We started living not in the same town, and then now we get to live near each other and see each other all the time. So it's awesome.
Totally manifested you coming to live with me in Adelaide. Something that, when we actually met in Sydney at a retreat, and I actually thought, oh my gosh, it'd be so cool to have someone like Emily come and, be in my everyday life. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you. And anyway, public displays of affection out of the way. It was just like a big love fest. So Emily, this is about you today. So tell us the Reader's Digest version of the Emily Beaton biography.
Well, as you said, I'm a goals coach. So I help women reach their goals. And my mission is to help people be their happiest, healthiest and most content, because I think that's the way we want to live. And I try and do that through the most fun and easy way possible. So I use goals as the catalyst to help people feel their best, because that's what's really worked for me. I've been setting goals since I was 11 years old. I was a former professional netballer, which is where it all stemmed from. And I used to tell everyone that I was going to be a pro netballer when I was young. And my mum really got me setting goals when I was a little kid. And it's something that I've carried through on and off throughout my life, but whenever I set goals, I'm more happy, more content and get more done. So that's why I've wanted to share that with other people. I've also got another side to my business, which is Cleverhand, which I started in 2014, and that is an artwork site. It's got nothing to do with goals. It's kind of crazy how I started it. I was playing professional netball at the time, wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my career, and everyone always said, do what you love, do what you would do if you wouldn't even get paid for it. And I liked writing words, and I thought, well, that is silly advice, like who's going to pay me to do that? Anyhow, I started an Instagram page, and then people started asking if they could buy things, and next thing you know, I'd quit my part-time job and was painting words for a living. And it's a bit of a pinch me thing that I've been able to do that. So that's kind of my life in a nutshell, I guess.
Okay. I don't even know where to start. Okay. All right. So, oh my gosh. Okay. So let's start from childhood. Okay. So I know this about you, and you did mention it, but you used to go around telling people that you were going to be a professional netballer. You were just absolute dead set determined. I want to know what made you believe that was possible for you, because that's a massive lofty goal for someone so young. And just from my own experience in childhood and I mean, I guess I'm conscious of it now, having my own children and allowing them to have that self-belief is something that I'm incredibly conscious of. And particularly after meeting you and seeing your journey, I'm like, yes, you can totally do that. But being surrounded in a world where people constantly sort of the chances of that happening are very slim, I guess it's that whole setting realistic expectations as well, are you just setting, with people in your life sort of saying you setting yourself up to fail just by having this massive dream? So what was the thing, what actually did you just was it just you? Like, was that how you were programmed, or, you know, how did that come
I
about?
think my parents had a lot to do with it. They were very supportive, but they also never inflated me thinking I was better than I am. If anything, they would always bring me back down because,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in the country. You're not supposed to think you're better than anyone or anything like that. But the thing that I guess sticks out the most to me is I had no reason not to believe that I was good enough or that I could do it.
Yes.
And so I was a really good junior. I worked really, really hard, and I had always had people supporting me, helping me be better, and were telling me, like, if I told someone that, not one person ever said to me, you can't do that. So I had coaches, I had family, I had friends. Everyone's like, yep, I can see you're going to be a professional netballer. So that really helped as well. Yeah. And certainly on reflection now, I'm like, I literally never had anyone say that I couldn't do it. It was everyone agreed with me, which is kind of crazy. So I'm very lucky in that sense. But also, again, on reflection, as an 11-year-old, I didn't know this at the time. It's like I started working things out, but I really broke my goals down. So obviously I wanted to play for the Adelaide Thunderbirds when I was older, but I couldn't do that as an 11-year-old. So what was the next best thing? I wanted to make the SATSARSA team, and I made that. Then I wanted to make the state team, then I made that. Then so I always had mini goals that I wanted to do and achieve, and then I'd focus on those. I wanted to be the best player in my team, wanted to be the fittest person, I wanted to be the most skillful, so I'd focus on that with that knowledge, and I guess trust that if I do all those things, then that would lead me to getting to my big dream. And I kind of do the same thing now, which is great.
Yeah. So that wasn't a conscious thing for you. No one taught you to do that. That was just a natural sort of breaking down the baby steps type scenario.
Yeah, I think that was natural. In terms of setting goals itself, my mum definitely got me into that. I remember her telling me, she said, Emily, if you write down your goals, it'll happen. And I was like this naive kid, and like anything my mum said was true. My mum, you know, has never told a porcupine. I'm like, right, mum says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So I just went in with full belief. And so I'd write down really lofty things. Like into my teenage years, I was like, people don't know sport, but I was like a bottom age player in under 17s, but I actually wanted to play in the state under 19s team. And so I ended up making that as a 16-year-old. So I still had 2 more years in under 17s. And I wrote that down thinking, this is ridiculous, but let's have a crack. Mum says it'll work. And then I made that team. I was like, wow. And then beyond that, I was like, well, I want to make the under 19 Australian team. And so I was like, oh, well, again, mum says it's true. The other one worked. We're going to do it. And then I made the under 19 Australian squad that they pick at nationals as a 16-year-old. And that's like, unheard of. And I was like, wow, I'm like, this stuff really works. So again, I was getting like affirmation. The whole time I was trying things, it kept working. So I never had a reason not to believe that things would be that way. And I think that like, faith and trust is a really big part of it.
Such a beautiful gift, I guess, to have so young, you know, like, So is it true that you used to write your goals and put them inside your shoe?
Oh, yeah. So that was this. Okay. So this was when I think I was 11 or 12. And so, as I said, I was like this naive country kid. I was really sheltered. And I made the SATSARSA team. And from that, there was a team that I wanted to make, which was like a talent identification, basically kind of like a state team. But then I would get really homesick when I'd leave home to go stay with other people. And in that case, you'd get billeted out to other homes. And I decided, like, so I had this dream. I was telling everyone I was going to be this pro netball player, and then I didn't even want to get on the bus. And mum pulled me aside and said, if you write down that you make this team and you put it on a piece of paper and you put it in your shoe every single morning that you're going to play at the carnival, you'll be in that team at the end of the week. And I was like, right, mum says it's true, it's going to happen. And so every day of that carnival, I did that, played with this, you know, manky little note in my sock. And and I made it, and was just like, that for me was like winning the lottery. Like that was such a big deal for me. And again, another affirmation that this stuff works.
Yeah.
And what mum was really smart with, I didn't realize at the time, that she was bringing my focus to what I can control and what I can do, not of what my massive fear was. So it took me away from everything I was scared of and focused on what I really, really wanted. And that got me on the bus, that got me over my fears, and was never homesick again after that. And, you know, she's pretty smart cookie, my mum, so she knew what she was doing. But
I love your mum. I've never met her, but I love her. Okay, so can I ask you a question about this whole note paper in the sock thing? Okay, because I knew that story, obviously, and that's why I asked you. So my daughter is a netballer, and she had a goal for one of her games recently. She wrote it on the piece of paper and put it in her shoe, and she took her shoe off, and it was like it was just crumbled into tiny little pieces. And I don't even remember if she got the goal or not, but she's like, Mum, is this really what Emily Beaton used to do? Like, does this really work? Okay, did she do it wrong? Did you laminate yours?
No, it was just it was literally a torn piece of paper, but I put it in my sock, not my shoe, and probably like more the ankle part, so not on the bottom. Like it was just tucked in there. And then I didn't think too much of it after that. Wasn't rereading it that much at the end of the game. It was thank you. But I just knew it was there, and it was it helped.
Okay, I appreciate that tip.
We can clarify that to her.
We didn't quite get to specifics.
Yeah.
And then she kind of anyway. Okay, so that's good to know. I'm sure that's really helpful for people listening as well. Okay, so my next question, and I think I already know the answer to this one, was who's your greatest influence going through this particular journey?
Yeah, well, obviously Mum. She's the one that taught me all about goals, and she's someone who, I've obviously known my mum my whole life. But she started off, she's always been quite smart and business minded and things like that, but she was a stay-at-home mum, and she actually thought she was not that smart. And she has always pushed back on the way that she's thought about herself to go further than she thought possible. And so she had a really successful corporate career. Like she came out of being at home for years and years, had a really successful corporate career. Actually, when we were living in the country, she'd commute to Melbourne. She'd live in Melbourne during the week and commute back to the family on the weekend because, she was just doing amazing things. She went back and studied law a few years ago, and she just has a go at things, and I think that's where I get a lot of it from. And Dad's been a huge influence on me as well. With Mum working away, Dad ferried me everywhere. The amount of kilometres he drove, and again, just someone who has always been so excited for me in everything that I've done. And Dad's a bit quieter, but he loves sport and I could just always feel his pride, but never pressure, which is beautiful. And to have those two, in my corner, I'm pretty damn lucky. And even now, like I'm so close with Mum and Dad.
What a beautiful combo. It's like
they're pretty fresh.
Warm fuzzies. But like, like having this kind of, I guess, support, like what made your mum go from being like having the mindset of a stay-at-home mum and that's her role to being like, I can do so much more and I'm going to be so much more? Like, what was her personal development journey? Like, 'cause you don't it's not just like flicking on a switch. You've got to like do some work for that stuff. Did she do anything like that?
She, I think a lot of that's inherent in her. She was actually born with a disability, so her feet were. She was in a wheelchair when she was a kid, and so she had. I know, and I forget it, but obviously I didn't know as a kid, but I forget that she had that. But I actually think that adversity built her determination, and her, like my nan, her mum was an incredible woman who was super driven as well, and Mum got to spend lots of time with her because they'd have to drive up to Adelaide, and there was 5 kids, but Mum got the most one-on-one time with Nan, so I think she got a big influence on that. And I think Mum and Dad have always been a real partnership, and so Dad's had a really great career with what he's done, but Mum's always seen that as he's good because of her as well. So they really help each other out. So even if Dad would have the external success, he knows and she knows that he wouldn't achieve that without her. And again, who you surround yourself with. Mum's surrounded by Dad the whole time, who is a great supporter and would say you can do anything. And when you hear that enough, you start believing it and then act that way as well. But she does have that internal drive. She never sits still, and she's there's a bit more of that as well.
Amazing. I get that. Okay, so all right, so you had this incredible professional netball career, which for a lot of people would be enough. Like, you know, you did 10 years, was it, with the Adelaide Thunderbirds? And that's, you know, like, to me, that's mind blowing, because you know that I'm not sporty. And so
you're a runner now.
I'm totally a runner now.
You are.
I'm not a runner, but I run. And that's, you know, that's enough for me for now. But, you know, like, so what made you realize, like, when was it you made the decision to retire? Like, you were only like, what, 20 something?
Yeah, I was 29 when I decided to retire.
And, you know, so you were like peaking. What made you decide that that was enough? And, you know, I guess to focus on something new. Like, were you doing Cleverhand while you were playing? So you had already transitioned from working part-time and playing with the Thunderbirds. And then, so what was the, like, what made you, was it, tell me about that.
So I'm someone who's a very feelings-based person. So I make decisions based on how I feel, whether right or wrong. I think some people are more analytical. I'm very feelings-based. So if something feels right, I'll keep doing it. If it doesn't, I won't. And I always try and keep in integrity with myself. So in those, like, final year of netball, I found myself wanting to do other things more than I wanted to play netball. I'd go to training and it was fine, but there was just so much else that I wanted to do. I wanted to spend more time with my partner at the time. I wanted to do more with my business, and netball had always come before everything else. And when I felt that shift, I was like, oh, okay, so that's when you just change out to do that. And I didn't kind of overcomplicate it. And that felt right. So I did it. And my transition out of sport was really simple. And I'm really lucky for that. I know a lot of people struggle with that. And it's still how I make decisions now. And it can be hard to explain it to other people. But I just knew that it was the right thing for me.
Yeah.
I did it, and then things unfold. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? It's like, as soon as you start to sort of feel that, like, that pulling, you know, like, it's the place like starts as like a little tingle, and then it's like it's almost just like a magnet, like it's like a pull, and then you just, like, for me, because you know that I'm very intuition based as well, that, like, it's just like you just can't ignore it. And then, you know, if this is the thing that I've learned, is that if you ignore it, then you're going to pay for it later. So you're better off just going, okay, this is the way we're going, and just following. So I totally get that. And I can't make an analytical decision to save myself. It is always based on
my other thing is, like, I was really conscious of not wrapping up my identity as a netballer as well, because I'd seen that with teammates, and their whole life would ride on how they would play. If they played well, then life was great. If they played bad, their whole life was awful. And I always saw myself, probably to the detriment of my career, probably could have been a better player than I was. I still had a great career, but there was things that I didn't achieve that I could have if I was more single focused. But I always just saw netball as something else that I did. So I was like, Emily the person, netball is what I did. And then I had a Cleverhand, then I was a girlfriend, I was a daughter, I was all of these things, and they meant as much as me to everything else. And balance has always been something that I really enjoy, and that's where I feel like I'm my happiest. And I got told during my career that I should be less balanced. And they were probably right if I wanted to be a better netballer, but I wanted to enjoy my life and be happy. And I was like, I knew that if I was less balanced, what would be the point of achieving these external things if I didn't feel fulfilled?
Yes.
And so it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But again, to other people, it would look.
Yeah. But that, you know, like,
those external successes as the be all and end all.
When you put it like that, it makes perfect sense, because we only get one shot at life. And why would you sort of sacrifice other things that make you happy, you know, for something that, I don't know, then what?
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, it's amazing. So, okay, so then we moved into Cleverhand, and Cleverhand was successful. Like, it still is, like, you're still running it. It was thriving. But all of a sudden, and this was when we met, you decided to position yourself as a goals coach and move into that space. How did you do that? Did you just jump in? Was it that same thing of, like, just getting the idea and not being able to ignore it?
Pretty well, yeah. So I've always been someone who is obsessed with self-development. Probably hear from setting goals as an 11-year-old. I started reading kind of like self-help books around that age as well, just because I loved the way it made me feel. I loved the messaging and I was like, I just want more of this. Plus, I always had these dreams and I was like, anything that can make me better. And I knew the mental game was one that I enjoyed, but I knew that would give you an edge as well. So I've been reading self-development books forever, and it's something that I've always seen other people in that space and thought, oh, I could never do that, but knowing that it's exactly what I wanted to do. So I always had that. And then I got to the point where, that nagging is just there. And when I have like this vision of my life, I knew that's what I wanted to be doing. And I was like, well, you have to start to get to where you want to go. You actually have to start. So I dove into it, and I tell you what, my imposter syndrome has never been as bad. Like, I felt physically ill when I decided to do that, because like, who am I to do this?
Yeah,
Think you're going to be judged. What if like people think you're an idiot? Like, all like, and it's all that external stuff, and I still get it for sure. But I'm so glad that I took the leap, because it's such a fulfilling and rewarding thing to do. But yeah, I pretty much just dove in. And sometimes, as we were saying before, like that feeling, and I think it feels right, just do it and then kind of work it out later.
Yeah,
and
totally.
That's a bit what I do, which I think would be really interesting with conversations you have with other people. This is why I love, podcasts and hearing from different people, because there's not one way to be successful or go after what you want. You have to know yourself. And this is a thing I talk about a lot in my coaching, is work with yourself instead of against yourself. Stop trying to be a clone of someone else and follow their path. It's only going to work if you work with your natural inclinations. That's the most fun and easy way to do things. And you'll have more success and enjoy the journey as well. So that's why I'm so glad you're doing it.
I love that. I love that. It's so true. And it's I think it's something that I've certainly battled with since I've started my business, is like following what other people tell you should do. And we've talked about this before, in our many philosophical conversations, but it's so important to learn from others. I think, like, otherwise you don't know what's possible, or the mechanics of certain things and whatever, but you really do have to just make it work for you. And that's something that I've been able to lean into more since knowing you as well, that it's okay to do that. You don't have to follow the rules or what somebody is telling you should or shouldn't do. That there's so many other variables in life as well. You have to consider those as well. And particularly for me, my family always comes first. I'm a mum of 4. I need to work and make this work, my business work, around them. And I have, to a certain extent, but I think even more so this year, I'm really leaning into that even more so, and making that work for us, and not sacrificing certain things in order to achieve this, so that maybe one day we can have more time and financial freedom. I'm actually working it out now so that we're having that now. So anyway, I digressed somewhat, but I just,
that's your values. And values is such a huge part, and having really clear values makes it easier to make decisions. And the thing I love hearing about that, and as you said, we've had lots of chats about this, but being really conscious about your life as well. We can just cruise through and think there's a certain way to do things, but if you're consciously making the choice of what you're doing, then I think that's absolutely perfect, even if it isn't the way other people do it, even if it's the way society's like, no, you need to hustle and you need to just squeeze everything out of everything. It's
squeeze everything out.
I'm like, it's actually good for me. For me, one of my big values is, you can probably tell, is fun. I really want to be able to enjoy my life, experience all of it. So that is really high in the way that I live my life. And connections with people and things like that. So, and again, that's what makes people different. That's interesting. And I also think, learning from other people and learning all the rules, so you know which ones that you do want to break and which ones you don't. If you don't know what you don't know, that makes it difficult. But that's why I love learning, because it'd be actually, I'm choosing not to follow that. If that makes sense.
I love that. And I think what you said about values is really important, really just setting some time aside to think about about your values and what you want your life to be and how you want to feel and all that sort of thing. Like, it's so important. And something I think that a lot of people just go through the motions of life and just accept things. Oh, this is just how it is. Like, this is how this particular situation is, or this, you know, like, I've got to make money somehow, so I just have to go, you know, keep going with my 9 to 5, or, you know, like, this is what motherhood's supposed to look like. So I guess I've just got to suck it up for the next 18 years. And, you know, like, I see that a lot. And I think that that's such a huge key takeaway. If you are sort of feeling, I don't know, like things aren't within your control, that you actually can consciously shift the way, you know, your direction, I suppose. And when you said about jumping in head first to, you know, goals coaching, like, even despite all this imposter syndrome stuff, like, that's just so inspiring. Like, that's really scary.
And the thing is, like, you can always change as well. I think people get scared about setting goals or getting clear on what their values are. You can change them at any time. Like, you're not locked into anything. You've got free will over everything. If you decide that you want to start your own business, and then you decide, and because that's what you crave, and you crave freedom, and then that ends up shifting and changing that. Nope, I feel like I want more security again. Then you can change again. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we only get one life. Like, live it how you want to. And it is going to change and evolve, but that's what makes it exciting. Like, you don't know what is around the corner in the best possible way. I think it's awesome.
I love it. Okay. All right. So how do you, like, you know, you mentioned the imposter syndrome, and everybody gets imposter syndrome, like, everybody. Like, even if you look, like, you know, Instagram's a perfect example, because it's snippets of highlights, and we all sort of see other people and think, oh my gosh, they're just so confident, they've got it all together. But everybody's like that whole new level, new devil. Like, every time you take that next step or take that next leap, it's just like, you can't do this. What are you thinking? Like, so how do you battle those demons?
Yeah, there's a few things. So one thing I really know for sure is that my thoughts aren't necessarily true, so I don't believe them all. So even if, like, the same ones keep coming up and you're not good enough, you can't do that, why would you ever be able to do that? I can just stop it and say that's not true, and then choose a thought that I actually want to believe about myself. So I'm very, very conscious about what I'm thinking and what I'm telling myself. It's easier at sometimes than others. You know, depending on where your confidence and self-worth is at. The other thing I'm really conscious of is who I surround myself with, and that's not just physically people, but that's what I'm reading, what I'm listening to, and people I'm following on social media as well. So again, if something doesn't make me feel good, I'll stop doing it, and then surround myself with stories, I guess, as well, of success, of people who I can see myself in. Someone who has done it, someone who does have a similar background, someone who overcame the odds, and I'll make that kind of my North Star or my guiding light, and think that person did it, so can I, instead of the opposite of that, with all these examples, I guess, of failure, or people that haven't done well, or all the things I'm fearful of. I will try and block that out. And then the other thing is just getting, so in terms of, like, blocking things out, it's like also feeling them as well, because they will keep coming back. So if this imposter syndrome is just through the roof, I'll, like, journal it out and work out what the real core is of that. And then I can get to the crux of it. So if it is, you know, that you're not good enough, then you can actually then have a conversation with yourself to that question or that statement, and realize that, well, you are. Like, you always are. We all are enough. And we just need to push back on that. But if you believe everything you think, like, your ego is always going to get in the way. It's always finding a way to bring you down, make you feel worse, keep you stuck, keep you small. So I think knowing that in the first instance is really powerful.
Yeah, amazing. I love all of that. All of it. Okay, so all right. So you are not a magical unicorn. You do not achieve every single goal.
Oh, hell no.
Like, come on.
No.
I know that the netball stuff worked out really well for you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Like, you know, like, amazing, inspiring, love it. But, you know, like, nobody achieves every single goal that they set out to. And, you know, I believe that sometimes that's because there is something else in the future that we don't know about, that's something better in store for us. Or, like, you know, almost like you're being saved from something, like a certain situation. Like I truly believe in that. But in the moment, like it's super deflating. Like if you can't see past it, like if it's, you know, it's devastating. So how do you reset from that? Like how do you sort of like, you know, you get to this brick wall, didn't achieve what you set out to for whatever reason, you know, you don't have hindsight yet. How do you reset?
First, be really upset about it. If you're upset about it, feel it. Because kind of like what you resist persists. It's just going to keep coming back at you. So we also, like, the thing with negative emotion, I've always been someone who loves feeling good. So I don't love negative emotion, but I've realized the power of it. And that's because we don't want to be happy about everything. When there's something awful happening and if you're going to react happy to that, that's kind of not what you want. Like, so you can see what purpose it's giving you. We don't want to feel great about every single thing that happens in our life, because some things that happen are really awful. And that
would be a bit weird, wouldn't it? To react with happiness to every single thing.
So there's real purpose in what that is going to tell you. So I always just be upset about things, and the reason that I concentrate on that now is because you move through things so much quicker when you actually experience them, and you can learn so much more. And every hard thing I've been through, I've never wanted to go through, but it's always led to my most happiest times and liking myself more, and the resilience that you get from it. It's always ended up being a good experience. So always feeling your feelings. Next thing, I'm very big on reflection, and I think that comes from my sporting background as well, because we had to reflect on every single game. You know, you do video analysis, all this, you're always looking for ways to get better. So I will always reflect on what can I learn from it, what did I do. I always look at how I've contributed to not getting what I want. And never putting blame on anything else, always taking full responsibility, because that's where the power is. If we say this person did that, or you know, this happened to me, while it might be true, it actually, you can't do anything about it. So it's controlling your controllable. So always reflect on what's happened, and then I'll set new goals and work out what I want to do, and then focus on those. And focus on what I want, not on what I don't want, and then get back on the horse again. Feel the feels. Reflect on what you need to change. And then move forward. Reset. I love that. Okay, that's really helpful. Okay, so just from the audience point of view, if someone who's listening has never been like a conscious goal setter before, because I know that for a lot of my life I wasn't really, like I did, like I had goals, I had things, like particularly when I was younger, like not quite the same as you, but I was 12 when I decided I wanted to be a graphic designer. Not the same thing as being an Adelaide Thunderbird, but that was it. Like all my subjects pointed towards that. And I went like straight off. I went to uni, got my degree. I was itching to get out there into, like, I cried the first time I saw my work in public. Like I was like, and like, I know it's not the same, but so, you know, I've had goals and, you know, different things in my life, you know, like I've been like this is how it must happen, I guess, you know, like birthing, like all those sorts of things, goals with that. But so if someone's sort of just cruising through life so far, or, you know, maybe they're just thinking about starting a business, I don't know, they've never really been able to do it before. Is it too late? Like, is it ever too late to start goal setting? Never. And you get to like, as I kind of said before, you get to choose what your goals are. They can be really big things if you want, they can be small, but first thing I always get people to do is to dream, because I have so many people say, I don't know what I want, and I'm always like, do you not know what you want, or do you just think you can't get it? So when we dream, it kind of gives us clues about what we do want. So, you know, if I've got someone being a bit cheeky and saying, I want to win the lottery, it's like, do you? Great. But you can't actually, you know, do much about that. But that might actually say that financial security is something that is important for you. So then you can, you know, peel back the layers, bring it back down. And then if you want to focus on your finances or something like that, then perhaps that is giving a key for you of what you want. So I always get people to dream, work out what they want, and then start setting really tangible goals. And I love breaking them down into really small parts, because starting is generally the hardest part. And once we start, then we can gain momentum and continue on. So that also really helps if you're a procrastinator, which I do love a bit of procrastination. So making that first step really small, where it's a no-brainer to get started.
Mm-hmm.
Having a really clear and conscious why, so bringing purpose to your goals, because otherwise you honestly, like, why would I get out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to go to the gym when I can keep sleeping? But if
see, I don't get that one.
Yeah. So but for me, okay, so for me, I'm like, I want to feel my best whenever I can. I feel like I'm an absolute hero if I get out of bed at that time. It gives me a bit of self-esteem. I love the way it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And that is all really, really important to me.
Yeah.
When my alarm goes off, I'd be an idiot not to get out of bed if I'm going to get all those things from it. Like, I mean, I'm not always that happy about it, but
I totally see that, like having the reasons why to motivate you, especially because, a lot of the steps that are going to take you towards their goals are not all like sexy steps. Like, there's some hard work that has to happen, and we're not always motivated, are we? Like,
no, and you don't want to rely on motivation.
Motivators.
If you only do things when you're motivated, you're not going to be doing things very often.
Anywhere, will you?
Not to be relied upon. Actually, a really good thing on motivation is everyone thinks that you have motivation first and then you take action, but actually it's proven that it happens the other way. You take action and then you get more motivated. So I think knowing that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's why I say starting is the hardest part.
Absolutely. Just taking that first step is that, like, you don't have to know what step 4 is to take step 1. Like, that's,
let it unfold.
Just, totally. Okay, cool. All right. So let's get some, I mean, you've given so many amazing tips throughout the conversation, but just so that it's all in one place, what are your 3 top tips for goal setting? Have you got 3 that you can give us off the top of your head? I know that I'm putting you on the spot here.
I think it's probably what I just said. So I'm
dream
first.
Yeah.
Dream, get excited about your life.
Yeah.
Stop putting limitations on yourself and just be like, if I could have anything, what would I do? I love the quote, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Yeah. And just have a bit of a dream, because one, that makes you feel really, really good, gives you clues about what you want. And then just set a goal, any goal. Treat everything as an experiment. See what happens. Yeah. And it's not always about the outcome. It's you focus on the process, and then the outcome will kind of take care of itself. So you want to feel good along the way that you're working towards your goal. So dream. Set your goal and create a plan. I find that really, really helps. If the plan changes, that's fine, but it helps you get there quicker and gives you direction and structure. But if your plan changes, your goal doesn't have to, but it really, really does help. And then get very clear on your why. Yeah. Because that will push through the motivation lulls. It'll make it more of a no-brainer to take action. And the last little thing is just get really conscious of your mindset. Really think about your thoughts and focus on what you want, not on what you don't want, and keep bringing yourself back to that. It takes discipline, it takes work, but the more you do it, the easier it'll get. Plus, you'll enjoy your life a lot more if you're focusing on the good than the bad all the time. We don't need to remind ourselves of the bad all the time, because it's there. Yeah. There's enough of that, isn't there? Yeah. Our brain's 7 times more likely to notice a negative than it is a positive. So we need to remind ourselves probably 7 more times to focus on something good. Yeah, absolutely. I've heard that before. And I've also, I keep coming back to parenting, like I think and especially for this audience, a lot of them are mums in business. So, it's a whole thing with a child. If you say one negative, it's true. Like you say the one negative thing to them, it takes 7 to balance that back out again. And that's, I think that's, we need to be conscious of that for ourselves as well. Like we are our biggest sort of, we can be our biggest influencer ourselves, I guess, like in just tweaking the way that we're thinking and those sorts of and my kids just like look at me like I'm crazy. Sometimes I give them these big mindset chats, like they're 9 and 6. So, they're like, I don't get it, Mum. I'm like, it's okay. They'll get it. It'll sink in and you'll like, but you know what though? The other day, and they've been doing it a bit more lately. So one of my 6-year-olds said something about, I'm really bad at drawing. They did a drawing and they said, oh, I'm really bad at drawing giraffes or something. And one of the other girls turned around and said, don't say those types of things about yourself. You want to be good at drawing giraffes. You have to tell yourself that you're good at drawing giraffes. And I was love in the corner going, oh yeah. Like, oh, that's so sweet.
So anyway, that was just a little anecdote that, anyway, awesome. So I was a bit off track, but
no, it wasn't.
All right. So I just want to say that like this has just been an incredible chat, and I always love chatting with you, but I got to ask you some questions today that I guess I can't just like throw into normal coffee conversation. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm sure that, anyone that's listening is going to love it. So where can we find you? Tell us where all the places are that you hang out so that people can come and say hello and support you.
Instagram is my main jam. And generally on stories, I'm a bit of all over the shop with my posting, but I'm generally always on stories. And if you ever want to like say g'day and have a chat, I would love that. So I'm at Beaton with an _@ the end. And I've also got a membership called the Goals Club where I help women reach their goals, and that opens up a couple of times a year. I think I'll be opening again in October, so that'll be soon. But yeah, find me on Instagram and then we can chat and say hey and friend.
And you'll find out everything about Cleverhand as well there. And so Emily's got Cleverhand and the Goals Club, and also a bunch of other cool stuff on the way that I know about that you don't. So go and follow her so that you'll find everything out. Oh, she's also got this amazing newsletter every Friday. She's got this incredible, beautiful newsletter that's full of things that are only going to help you, be a better version of yourself. And I think like it's a beautiful thing. I love it. All right.
Bit of fun, bit of inspo.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Thanks so much, Emily.
Thanks, Rach.
Bye. If you loved listening to this week's episode, pretty please click subscribe so that you don't miss any future podcasts. Also, if you have just a minute, please feel free to leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening. I'd so appreciate it, and it will help spread this message further. Thanks for being here. I'll catch you next week.